Start recording.
Okay, everybody, welcome to our Revolution's first endorsement for the people who are just running for November. We had endorsement meetings in the spring and last fall for people who were going to be running in the primary, and 4 people from the primary, I think it was 4 between the 2 counties, did go on till November, so we're happy about that. So let me just briefly tell you just very briefly, what part of our endorsement thing is. First of all, we send out to questionnaires. We advertise a little bit like on Facebook and in our letters and mouth to mouth, whatever. And people request our questionnaire. We get it out to them, they return it, and then we very carefully go over it. What we're looking for, our revolution was started by Bernie Sanders, and we try to have his values. And so we're looking for people that have the same kind of values. Anyway, other things we look for, anybody can put anything down when they fill out a form. But one way we can kind of double check is we look to see who's endorsed them and who they've been endorsing and how they've been voting on things. So we take all of these things into account. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about that. And then we do the interview and the members do the actual voting. Okay, so we're going to start. Our first person here today is Oakland City Council person Carroll Fife, and she's going to be formally introduced by Mark.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to introduce Carroll. When I think of Carroll Fife, I think of 2 things. I think of intelligence and I think of courage. And from her work with ACE as a Bernie Sanders delegate, she is a true organizer. As council member, she is still organizing for housing, for the environment, for public banking, for public safety. She's a great legislator, co-creator of the Black New Deal, and she's all about resources for public services. And it is always a pleasure to be in her presence. She is Oakland City Council member for District 3. She is the inimitable Carroll Fife. Carroll, go ahead.
I swear to God, Mark always makes me sound so incredible. Mark, I love you so much. And honestly, I see a lot of my organizing family on this call. And I'm not your typical politician, and I don't think I ever want to be. But I am someone who operates, who organizes from my heart, my personal principles, and also progressive values. And I know progressive has become pejorative to many individuals in the world right now. And you see these pejoratives identified as the woke left, the progressive left. There are all these different terms that they're using to attack people like us. I was a delegate for Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020, and I've continued along those values. And it's not because it was Bernie, it's what Bernie represented. And in fact, it was his campaign that reached out to me because of the work that I was doing around community land trusts, around community organizing. And they said, you demonstrate the values that we want to lift up through this presidential campaign. Regardless of what happens, the things that you're organizing for is what we're all about. And we want you to be a part. So I was like, what? A presidential candidate is looking at me? And I'm like, okay. And so that just gave me a lot of energy and a lot of just kind of like, you got this, you're on the right course. If there are people from all the way across the country that are looking at not just you as an individual, but what your community is doing, then you're doing the right thing. And those things are why I'm under attack right now. And I don't even like to use it's we. And just because what happened yesterday happened doesn't mean we need to get off course of our agenda, which is what is doing right by our environment around social, racial, and economic justice. I'm asking for your endorsement today because I say this all the time. I know Nina, and I know you all are probably irritated with it at this point too. but literally everything we love is on the line. Everything. If you look at Project 2025, you will understand what is at stake right now. And don't think for 1 minute that all politics is not local. The same individuals, the same think tanks that are behind Project 2025 are right here in Oakland. It is the Heritage Foundation that is behind the talking points that Oakland organizations are using to dismantle ranked choice voting. It's the same individuals that are pushing to recall duly elected officials right here in the city of Oakland. Their talking points are the same, their objectives are the same. So we have to deal with it in Alameda County, just like our electeds at the congressional level are having to deal with it in our nation's capital. I'm here to push back on it. And I would argue this is not a competition, but I'm the fiercest competition that they have on the Oakland City Council. I work in partnership with my colleagues, but they are coming for people like me. They are coming for people like us. And I'm going to be what holds the dam back for the city of Oakland, in addition to people like you who are supporting. I need it more than ever. I thought I needed it when I ran in 2020 as an organizer, as the director of the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment. Shout out to Melvin Willis, who's also on my screen. But as the director of this organization, I went up against a 2-term incumbent and defeated that individual handily. I need, as the incumbent, more help this year than I did then. And so I leave you with, we are in this together and we have everything that we need to succeed. And I can do that if we do it together. Thank you.
Okay, Carol, thank you. We're going to open the question thing, and I think Mark will be calling on people. And I ask people, keep your questions fairly brief. Carol has a total of like 10 to 12 minutes, including all the questions, and a minute or so to wrap up. And I have the first question. And what that is, where do you stand on the Middle East situation between Israel and Palestine? Just very briefly.
I have been threatened with legal action by organizations that have targeted the city of Oakland for bringing what I think is a reasonable request for a ceasefire in Gaza. I supported our congressional leadership with the ceasefire resolution that they passed. I scheduled an emergency meeting for the city of Oakland to have that pass. And I still am in the process of redacting the thousands of emails that I received from individuals asking for a ceasefire from the Zionist organizations that are demanding I turn over those records. It is crucial that we demand more of our congressional leadership and our executive leadership at the federal level. At this point, it is what it is. It's genocide and it needs to stop. So that's where I stand on the issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mark, do you want to take over asking questions?
Sure. I see Sherry has her hand up. So Sherry, go ahead.
Well, it's always terrific to listen to you. We all need that inspiration and that passion right now, especially today. What I'm really worried about, especially in Oakland, is that same group, that far right group, is bludgeoning all of us with law and order and pushback against all of the inroads that we've made on holding police responsible. Can you briefly sort of see how we can get out of this and still have safety in Oakland?
This is a challenging conversation. It's actually one I would like to have with you all outside of an endorsement interview. I want to have a conversation because we can't take ideological positions around what safety looks like, but we have to broaden what the definition of safety is. The reality is we have to have a police force that cares about the civil liberties of our residents. And I think in Oakland, organizers and activists have done an amazing job holding the Oakland police accountable to the point where we have far fewer incidents of fatalities than we've had in the past. The era of the Oakland rioters is over, but we've swung so far on the opposite side of the pendulum that now they're like, well, we're not going to do anything because we don't want to have to risk getting written up or going through an administrative review based on what we've done. And that's not acceptable. What I do need to talk to you all about is how do you hold accountable a force that is 60% of the general purpose fund who has almost exclusive control over their activity? Because when I say it, then I get accused of being anti-police and wanting anarchy in the city. And at the same time, nothing gets done. They have a stranglehold over our city, and they just hired as their spokesperson, Sam Singer. And if you don't know who Sam Singer is, he has a beef with me from the takeover of Moms for Housing. So that's a complicated question, Sherry, and I would like to have more conversation about how we tackle such a powerful organization.
All right. Any further questions for Carroll in the limited amount of time that we have her? Last chance. Joaquin, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Carroll. We had 100 questions or so on there, and 3 of them, I guess, you didn't answer about decriminalizing all drugs.
Oh, excuse me, Joaquin.
Yeah.
I went to her campaign about that, and she has
Joaquin, Joaquin, could you, we need a little bit more audio on your end.
Okay. Maybe Carol said she had resolved this, but there were 3 questions. Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better. Go ahead.
3 questions that you didn't answer about legalization of all drugs. Are you in favor? Voting by felons. Are you in favor? And free public transit. It may have been oversight because we had 100 questions, but would.
Okay, number 1, legalization of all.
So in May,
What was that, Mark? Okay.
somebody mute May. Her microphone is on. Go ahead, Carol.
Legalization of all drugs. No, I don't believe there should be a legalization of all drugs. I do think there should be more of a regulation on pharmaceutical drugs. But I believe that this culture has not done a good job of cultivating healthy individuals, and it creates a situation where we turn to either drugs, pharmaceutical or illicit drugs that are sold on the street without a real way to regulate what the outcomes of those are. I think we need a lot more mental health supports and services, but I also think in the same way not even the same way. If we're going to learn geometry in school, then we also have to learn how to manage and deal with the self. There's so many things that I've learned about neurology as an adult and brain chemistry that I didn't know, that I think that if drugs were legalized, it could, get into the hands of young people and impact their brain development in a way that is difficult to manage or might have permanent impacts on. I'm not a prude, and I think that everybody should be able to use as responsibly. I just don't, as they should be able to responsibly. I just don't think that we do a good job on the overall education of how to be responsible individuals. So I think if it were taught in schools how to be more regulatory of the self, then we could have a different conversation. I think this country has a lot of trauma that needs to be healed. And I do know a lot of people that I am in relationship with have had positive experiences with microdosing and some other things. And I also have seen the dark side of that as well. I do think the question was allowing, well, you said felons. I think formerly incarcerated people should have the opportunity to have a voice in their democracy. And I do a lot of work with formerly incarcerated people to help them understand what their rights are. So I think, yes, formerly incarcerated people should have the right to vote. I don't know if you mean people that are currently in prisons, but I think, they have the full right to participate in society. And there was a third question, I think, something about transportation, but the question wasn't clear.
Free public transit for anyone,
Free public transit for anyone?
right?
I think that would be spectacular. I don't know if you've seen the news about the financial status of the city of Oakland right now. My question would be, how do we pay for that? The BART system, our public transportation system, is experiencing some challenges and hasn't quite rebounded from COVID. So I would just like to explore the opportunities of funding for that, because I think that would be an outstanding idea.
Okay, we have time.
Final
for-
question goes to Michael. Michael, go ahead.
This will be
I
the
don't have
last
a question. I don't have a question. I have some housekeeping issue. We need to straighten out to treat everyone, all the candidates equally. Carroll, you did not answer those 3 questions in the form that I sent. We eventually will publish your response to the voters of OREB. Since you responded in this manner, would you be willing to amend those replies to response to the form so everyone can read them and base their vote on reading the responses?
That is fine. We can use the recording and add my answers here, but I want to be clear that I'm an incumbent that is facing not only 10 challengers in my race, but I'm also dealing with recovering from a cyber attack, one of the worst budgets in Oakland history, consistent death threats. And I personally feel that there should be some understanding for incumbents who are dealing with some of I don't know if you all are paying attention to the FBI probe. I recently was subpoenaed for all kinds of documentation. You all have no idea the level of pressure that I'm under right now. So please forgive me and charge it to my head and not my heart about a questionnaire. But the reality is, look at my record. Look at what I'm standing for. Look at the opposition that I'm against. You know what I stand for. And I think it is excessively burdensome for me to walk away when I'm under so much pressure and attack, to go through hundreds of questionnaires from all of the different organizations that are reaching out to me to ask me what I'm about. If you don't know by looking, I don't know what to tell you. I hear what you're saying, but respectfully, I would ask you to have some grace for what I'm going through and whatever else we need to do to make it equal. I think interviews do that.
So, thank you, Carroll. So I would just like to mention that I went to Alan Moore, the campaign manager, and said, we need to have these answered. He got back with me earlier today with the answers. I consider it complete. And I didn't send it to anybody on our board because it's been a nutty day.
Tell me, I can tell you about nutty days.
I bet you can. Anyway, okay, I think we've asked all the questions and we're gonna have to move on. Carroll, thank you so much. I know you're
Thank you.
busy.
It is quite all right. I consider this family, so thank you.
Thank you, Carroll.
All right, take care.
Okay, we're gonna move on now. Almost everything that we have one person running for. But we do have one position, we have 2 people that we're interviewing for, and that's for the Berkeley City Mayor. And we have Kate Harrison, who was on the city council previously running, and we have Adena Ishi, who is kind of a newcomer. They're both here today. And there's a 3rd person running, Sophie Hahn. We didn't invite her, we didn't send her a questionnaire. She's not really in line with what we're about. So I just wanted to mention that. If people say, well, why isn't she here? She has different values than we have. Anyway, so Mark, do you want to go ahead and no, who's gonna?
No,
Richard.
I think it's Richard.
Thanks, Carroll. Adena, I've the pleasure of introducing you. So our next speaker, folks, is Adena Ishi, who's running for mayor of Berkeley. She is an education and nonprofit consultant advocating for Berkeley High and Berkeley City College students to access higher education. She also supports young adults with career development. She's a 15-year Berkeley resident and attended Berkeley City College and UC Berkeley. and was an avid student organizer. In 2017, she became the youngest and first person of color ever elected as president of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, and Emeryville. And she's been an active community member and organizer in Berkeley for the past decade. She's running for mayor of Berkeley to tackle some of the serious challenges facing the city, including housing, homelessness, public safety, infrastructure, and government transparency and accountability. I just want to say that I first met Adena through the East Bay Young Dems, and it was like really clear to me early on that she really cares about the issues and the people of the city of Berkeley. She's passionate about doing this work and about bringing her lived experiences to city government. And so, Adena, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. I feel like you gave my whole opening statement for me. Yeah, I just want to set the record straight and say, you know, people keep saying, oh, this newcomer, this outside person. And the reality is I've been involved in local government here for 13 years, been involved in the city for 15, as long as I've lived here. So I am not new. I think that a lot of times women, especially women of color, we do a lot of work behind the scenes. And oftentimes people don't recognize that work. So I just want to set that record straight. Thank you, Richard, for that wonderful introduction. So I'm running for mayor of Berkeley because it's time for a reset at City Hall. Berkeley needs a leader to unite people around common sense solutions, and we need to focus on fighting our problems, not fighting each other. I've lived in Berkeley for nearly half my life and served as a leader in this community. As a student organizer at Berkeley City College and UC Berkeley, I organized my peers against the budget cuts to education, fought for education equity, and worked to increase civic engagement. As Richard said, I was the youngest and first person of color elected president of the Berkeley Albany Emeryville League of Women Voters, and it's over 100 years of existence. We had never had a person of color be president. You can imagine that that was quite a shakeup when I took over, even though I won 60% of the vote. If elected, I would be the first Asian American and first woman of color to serve as mayor in our city. I know we like to say Berkeley is a super progressive place, and at the same time, there are so many barriers that we still have to break here. As a community organizer and advocate, I've worked on local policy issues for over a decade and served as a commissioner on the Soda Tax Commission. I was also very involved with the efforts in Oakland and San Francisco as well to get the soda tax passed. I've personally experienced many of the issues that we're facing here in the city, and I bring this perspective and compassion when it comes to solving those issues. I myself have experienced housing insecurity. I've been mugged, block from my house. And unfortunately, I've also been hit by a car on my bicycle. So I really understand these issues that are my priorities: housing and homelessness, public safety, and infrastructure. We've passed some really great plans in the city, but we really need to do better on the implementation. And that's why we need new leadership and a fresh way of doing things. You can read more about me on my website, adenaishi.com. I'll throw it in the chat as well. Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to your questions.
Carroll, go for it.
Okay, where do you stand on the Middle East situation between Israel and Gaza, Palestine, actually?
Yes, thank you for asking that question, Carol. I believe in a ceasefire. I think that right now, when you look at just the basic facts here, we are talking about tens of thousands of innocent people who are being killed. And they are using our tax dollars to do it. They're bombing other countries. And as the United States, unfortunately, we have a history of being involved in war in other places. And to me, this is just really disturbing. I think that I'm especially disturbed by our inability to have these conversations in a really human way and to just be able to talk about peace. I'm disturbed by the fact that in our Berkeley Unified School District, there are teachers who want to teach about Palestine and are currently being silenced in the process. And I have been an advocate for making sure that people can teach about Palestine. I think that history is very important. I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood. My name is Adena, which is actually a Hebrew name. It means graceful or gentle. And, I've been very involved in the Jewish community my whole life. My husband and I actually had a Jewish wedding. And so it's very challenging for me to have these conversations with many of my friends and family who really just disagree with me. It's been a really heartbreaking situation. And I think we need to be able to say that we believe in peace, and I believe in peace. So thank you for that question.
Thank you for that answer.
Thank you both. Any other questions for Adena? Sherry, go for it.
Richard. Really, really nice to talk to you, Adena, and have you come to our event today. What do you feel like if you are elected? What do you think you bring to the table with special skills for the city of Berkeley that you can accomplish if you're on the city council?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate that. So I learned politics the nonpartisan way. As I mentioned, I've been involved with League of Women Voters for a very long time. Not only was I president of the local league, but I was also vice president of the state league as well. And, even though Berkeley, we're all, or many of us are Democrats, right? There are obviously very many different shades of what that looks like here. And one of the things that I really bring is an ability to have conversations with people across differences. I think it's so important that we're able to take a look at what's going on and be able to have a conversation about, okay, you believe this, I believe this, that's okay. Let's have a civil conversation about this and figure out how we're going to move forward. I think that that's a skill that I really bring. I also think that my ability to listen and to be patient, and to address things in a calm manner when things are quite intense is also something that would really benefit us having that skill on the city council, and especially as mayor. I know that our city has been dealing with a lot of infighting, and we've lost 2 city council members and our city manager this year. And I think it's important that we have a leader who can come in and be steady and not get caught up really in the drama and the politics of things. We really need to be focused on the issues. And I think that's a huge piece of what I bring. I also, as I mentioned, bring my life experience. Of course, I have my policy background. I'm also a lawyer. I don't know if I've mentioned that. So that's very important. My understanding of the law is valuable here. And also, like I said, my personal experiences that I bring give me an understanding of these issues and a willingness to really explore what they look like on the ground level. I think it's great we pass these policies, but how do they actually get implemented is important as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see Joaquin and then Michael.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. One of the questions in the super long questionnaire is about taking contributions from, you said you would not take campaign contributions from businesses or unions. Now, I'm curious. I'm curious, are you involved in the public finance in Berkeley, or are you doing, private contributions, and why not unions?
Yes, well, I can't take money from unions because I am doing the public financing. So that's why, just to explain that, I can certainly take money from union members. In fact, I come from a union family. Both of my parents were in IATSE. They worked in the film industry in Southern California. And so, yeah, I'm definitely pro-union. So just to clear that up. But yeah, I am doing the public financing, so I can't take money from PACs or corporations.
Okay.
So thanks for that question.
Michael, go for it.
How do you plan to address the affordable housing issue in Berkeley?
Yeah, so I believe we need to build affordable housing in every Berkeley neighborhood. I think that, one of the biggest struggles that we have when it comes to building affordable housing is the cost. It just costs so much to build affordable housing. And I find that that's one of the biggest challenges. I was very involved in Measure O. When I was president of the League of Women Voters, O was the affordable housing bond that goes to that went towards paying for affordable housing and has funded some of the projects here in the city. And I'm also supportive of the 9-county Bay Area measure bond as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Adena?
Did Joaquin ask his question?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to wrap up, Adena, and just do a wrap up of why we should select you?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think a lot about our politics. I have a lot of conversations with folks in Berkeley, and they're really concerned about the national level. And I know, having been involved in local politics for many years, that what happens here on the local level is actually so much more important, because this is really what impacts our daily lives. And it's something that I say all the time as someone who's worked with the local league. I think that something else we say is that many of the problems that we have are because we're not focusing enough on the next generation. And I think that's very important. I'm also our youngest candidate that's running for this office, that's been running a series campaign. I think there maybe are some people who have filed more recently. But it's really important that we're focused on supporting the next generation of progressive leaders, and especially women of color. I cannot believe that in the city of Berkeley, we have never had a woman of color be mayor. I think that that is honestly just a shame. It's embarrassing. And in our city, I think that we can do so much better. I think it's the identity piece is important, but also I think having someone in this position who really understands what it's like to experience these issues is something that's essential for our leadership. Our leaders need to understand what it looks like just to be a normal person. And I think that really matters. So I'm really hoping to get your endorsement. I really appreciate you all having me today. And thank you so much for your questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. We're going to move on to our other candidate that is running for mayor, Kate Harrison. So let me see what I could say about her. She's done so much that I'm aware of. Okay, she served several years on Berkeley City Council. I think it was about 6. I don't remember exactly. She's owner of Kate Harrison Consulting. She's a real long-time activist, and she's put a whole bunch of effort as she's been on the city council into issues like housing, homelessness, property crime. I've heard her speak numerous times and really learned a lot about what's going on in housing and how there's, I think, 800 or 1,000, I don't remember the number, vacancies that are not being rented out. We could easily fill them up very quickly with people that need housing. Okay, well, she was on the city council. She worked on increasing funding for the Berkeley waterfront area. She supported workers, particularly local workers, like in REI and Starbucks, Kaiser, that were trying to organize. I believe she also supported City of Berkeley workers that were trying to organize. She created the specialized care unit that we have in Berkeley now that addresses homeless issues rather than having the police come and throw people in jail or whatever they do, so they can work on crime. She's got a long list. Kate, you want to tell us more?
Yeah, Carroll, thank you so much for the introduction. I want to thank Adena for coming today, and I've appreciated her work on the league. It's very important that we work with young activists. I'm delighted to address you today because I know that you, like me, believe we have to center people's voice in government. I resigned from the Berkeley City Council to protest the increasing lack of public participation. This includes the council's referral to even debate a ceasefire in the Middle East, or to debate reducing youth violence or alternatives for fire safety. Worse, divisive rhetoric abounds. Our school superintendent was drawn into a congressional witch hunt charged with anti-Semitism because our youth are critical of Israel's Likud government. The lack of public input only helps to make sure that vested and corporate interests increasingly control Berkeley. They want to turn Berkeley into a characterless, cultureless, and joyless suburb because of profit. We've seen the new market rate housing that is nowhere close to being affordable to working people as a prime example. I'm going to give you some concrete ideas of what I have developed while on the council and how I've implemented these ideas. It's one thing to talk about ideas, but it's another to actually get things done. I led the fight to ensure that developers pay their fair share on affordable housing. I worked to pass the empty homes tax to address the 1,200 vacant units that are in the city. I was the lone vote against a sweetheart deal with the University of California, where it pays far less than it receives in city services. Those who profit from our city should pay their fair share before we ask our residents to pay higher taxes. I wrote the charter amendment, giving our Police Accountability Board real authority, something that had been denied them for decades. And I will keep the pressure on to reduce police violence and racial targeting, something I've devoted my life to, and that's what my firm works on, Carroll. I'm fighting to ensure equity in providing city services. For example, redesigning how Berkeley prioritizes its paving funds to meet the greatest need rather than the loudest complainer. I'm fighting to keep our waterfront accessible to all with affordable recreation like the Berkeley Sail Club instead of high-end hotels and berthing for large yachts as suggested by our city manager. Finally, I've centered equity in the fight against climate change, creating the Climate Equity Fund using Biden's Inflation Reduction Act and creating publicly available EV charging stations so that Berkeley tenants who do not have parking can have a real participation in the real Green New Deal. My record has led me to be endorsed by leaders across the political spectrum, such as former State Senator Sandra Swanson, DA Pamela Price. I was the only member of the Berkeley City Council to endorse Pamela Price for DA. Current State Senate candidate Jovanka Beckles, Council Member Cecilia Lunapara, former council members as diverse as Max Anderson, may he rest in peace, I'm so sad, and Gordon Wozniak, Berkeley School Board President Anna Vasudev, the pro-ceasefires members of the Oakland School Board, including Jennifer Bruhard, a supermajority of our rent board, dozens of commissioners, Democratic delegates like Bobby Lopez and Samin Usman, the Chinatown Improvement Council, who is supporting Pamela Price in her fight against this recall, the NAACP, and human rights, environmental, and housing advocates across the Bay Area. I look forward to your questions.
Okay, who has the first question for Kate?
Really?
Yeah, come on. Joaquin, you can do better. Michael's got to go.
So, Kate, people are gonna say, I know you did a little explanation about why you left the city council. People are gonna ask me, how should I respond to the question, people who asked that question?
Yeah. At the heart of why I resigned is because I've come to the realization that almost all of our residents have. We've been canvassing, and everyone that we talk to says City Hall is broken. It's working for moneyed interests and not the 99% of us. It has been refused to consider the items that I mentioned, but moreover, decisions are made behind closed doors. Community members' concerns, whether they're about fire safety or UC or commercializing the waterfront or a ceasefire, are being dismissed and not discussed. And even worse, this divisive rhetoric is splintering our community. And that's what finally drove me to resign. We cannot be attacking our teachers and people that believe in a ceasefire. Why now? It's not about a single issue or a vote. Across the board, there are significant last-minute changes to plans that have been years in the making. For example, planning at our North Berkeley BART station, the entire plan was changed in the last 24 hours before the council vote. And this was followed by an attempt to move all of our council meetings to 10 a.m. when most people who want to testify before us work, undermining the voice of the people across the political spectrum. Our senior staff also agreed they are leaving in droves. We have a 45% vacancy rate in our transportation division. We have an over 25% vacancy rate overall. All of our top level managers, the city manager, the head of public works, the head of health and human services, and 2 city council members left. So anyone who thinks that things aren't broken is just not paying attention. I wasn't there to collect a paycheck or use the council as a stepping stone. I will never run for anything else. I promise you, I'm a Berkeleyan through and through. I live here, I care about our town, and I'm here serving the city to make positive change and to listen to you. And I want to just address one other question people often ask. Well, what difference will it make if you're on the council as mayor? You know, you left this body, you're going to come back. A few things. One thing is I will lead. I have seen an absence of leadership in our current administration. We're also going to have 5 new council members and a new city manager. Hallelujah. Is starting in September. We need a mayor with courage and experience to set a new course. The mayor sets the tone for the budget, sets the tone for the city rather, develops the budget, and chairs the agenda committee. These are all incredibly important things that set the tone for the city. And I'm prepared to do that work after my years of experience in government, including working in 36 cities and counties across the United States, as well as being an international consultant working on rule of law, which is really about making sure people have access to their government and that their rights are protected. That's the experience that I'm bringing to this job.
Okay, Nikon. How do you say your name?
Nikon.
Nikon. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Berkeley is a majority renter city and is obviously one of the most expensive in terms of rents in the East Bay. And I think the district you represented on council was the second most heavily tenant. So I wanted to ask what you've done for tenants' rights and what you would do for tenants' rights.
That question. Starting in 1979, which shows how old I am, I worked on our first rent control measure here. When I was with the California Rural Legal Assistance, I worked on the first statewide just cause eviction protections, which passed the legislature, but was later thrown out by the legislature. I've always been about tenant rights and protecting people's rights. I've been engaged in the efforts to create the demolition ordinance, which says that people that live in units right now that are torn down will receive a like unit at a like price. It protects both the number of affordable units and the individuals who are living there now. I'm in favor of our right of return policy. I pass policies refusing to allow landlords to consider people's criminal records when they rent them units. We know that this kind of prejudice carries forward for someone's entire life. And when they come out of jail, not able to find a place to live or a place to work, their life is not going to be successful. I was on the 4x4, which is 4 council members and 4 rent board members for 7 years, working on items like how do we ensure safe conditions for tenants? What do we do about the golden duplexes in Berkeley, which are just too legally hard to explain, but suffice it to say, we have a category of rental units that are not protected by rent control that could be under state law. That is coming before the voters this November, and I support that measure. I've worked assiduously on making sure that we had the moratorium that was in place in Berkeley longer than any other city or the county, and protected not just tenants, residential tenants, but commercial tenants as well. Many of our commercial tenants were being kicked out for failure to pay rent. So I wrote that law with the mayor, but also strengthened it by adding these commercial aspects, because I'm very worried about the loss of our small businesses here in Berkeley. Essentially, this has sort of been my life's work, is working on housing. My master's thesis at Berkeley was on a project I was asked to evaluate. How do we make housing affordable and accessible for farm workers in the Central Valley? And the premise was, well, we just put up a lot of market rate housing and it will trickle down. It will not trickle down. I can tell you right now, most academic studies show when you build market rate housing, what you get is slightly less expensive market rate housing. You never get affordable housing. If you want affordable housing, you have to build affordable housing. I'm also the person who took over the TOPA, Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, from the mayor who had abandoned this policy and was shepherding it through the council. They have now voted against it, but I'm determined to bring that back. Finally, I'm protecting our city against short-term rentals and ensuring that our vacant units are not used for illegitimate rentals like short-term rentals by passing the vacancy tax, which over 70% of Berkeleyans voted for and which I wrote. Thank you for the question.
Okay, we have one more question for Kate. Well, you get off the hook easy. Kate, thank you so much for coming here. We always
yeah.
Who's speaking back there?
I'd like to make a closing statement if I might.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, just saying in closing, I think the other candidate mentioned, why does the federal government matter? Shouldn't we focus on local? Today, we will see our deportation of our undocumented brothers and sisters if Trump is elected. Today, we will see the arrest of our African-American brothers and sisters. We will see women and transgender people forced to abandon their futures and their identity. We will see the same rhetoric used by Trump that he used previously to insist that no federal funding go to cities that have a sanctuary policy. I think people asked about fare free transit earlier, and I just want to address that as a specific item. I put forth the policy to support fare free transit in Berkeley as a pilot. When you get people on the bus, they take the bus. And how do I know that? Because my parents moved to Pittsburgh, never got off the bus again. Because why? They had free transit downtown for seniors. We know if we get people interested in taking transit, they will take transit. So we need to promote a city of the future that looks not just at housing and affordable housing, but how people are going to get around our city. Finally, I do want to say I support voting by all felons, whether they're in prison or not, as is true in 3 states in America. Thank you.
Okay, Kate, thank you very much. All right. We're going to move on to another candidate now. The order we're going to do the next couple in, we're going to do Robert first, Devin next, and then Melvin after that. Then we got other people coming in, but that's the order of the 3. So let me see. Susanna, you were going to introduce Robert?
I am. Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Robert is well known in the San Leandro community as a very strong progressive. He was a Bernie supporter involved in the campaign. He is currently running for San Leandro City Council in District 6. He is the president of the Garfield, let's spice through this up, Parent Teacher Association and a leader in Urban Habitats program. So without further ado, Robert, thank you for being here. And yes, Marga says good things about you.
Howdy, rebels. How y'all doing? So, man, you guys got me following those tough acts. Ooh. So, I'll go ahead and tell y'all a little bit more about myself. So with me at the age of 26, I was a massage therapist, and I had just recently gotten married and was transitioning towards becoming a physical therapist and going back to school when I got diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia. So it was pretty much a forever cancer. So from 2011 till about 2019, I was on oral chemotherapy that pretty much kept me disabled, and I'm still suffering with a lot of that in my body. But even though I was disabled, I was still a fighter. When Bernie was running in 2016, I was canvassing, door knocking, I was fundraising for him. I was making Bernie temporary tattoos and stickers and selling those so I could fundraise for him even more as a stay-at-home dad. So that's about my level of commitment towards towards our progressive revolution. And on top of all of that, I was the parent teacher organization president for my children's school for the last 2 years. The difference between a PTA and a PTO, if you don't know, is PTA is the big name brand parent teacher association, and a PTO is like the Kirkland brand version of a PTA for broke schools, and we are broke out here. 3/4 of San Leandro schools are Title I schools, where a majority of these families are low income. 70% of the families in San Leandro Unified School District are low income. So, people often ask me why don't I go for the school board while, instead of going for city council. And it's because I can't afford our lack of rent control in our city for these families. If I go for the school board, I can't address the racism within our police department if I go for the school board. And I can't address our racist voting policies because in San Leandro, we have 6 districts, but we vote at large instead of district site, which violates the California Voting Rights Act. And I'm one of the few people that brings this up and pushes against that, because we like to tout diversity, equity, and inclusion in San Leandro. But if there's no voting equity, it's just creating, it's an illusion that gives big money donors all the power to just funnel more money into their chosen candidates that are going to be real estate and developer friendly. And we've seen a lot of those issues out here in San Leandro, which used to be a sundown town. we see a lot of that redlining kind of rearing its way back in this attempts to gentrify the area and price out a lot of these low income, primarily BIPOC families. I feel like I'm rambling on a lot, but one last thing, I'm also on the executive board of a nonprofit music school. I've been a flute player since 1993. Um, During the pandemic, I noticed that there were a lot of families that were a lot of students that were just sitting in uncomfortable situations at kitchen tables on their couches during distance learning. And my wife worked in commercial real estate, so every time a tenant would leave, they'd often leave a bunch of office equipment. And I had access to 100 office chairs that I was able to redistribute with my wife to people within our community. All in all, we were able to salvage about 82 of these chairs to local San Leandro families, and we did that on our dime, with our efforts and our energy, because our community needed it, and we can't just sit back and watch as people that are in need suffer needlessly. So, yeah, that's a little bit about myself. Thank you for listening to me. Now I'm shy. I'm going to go home now.
Nice try. Anyway, thank you.
This
Yeah, and
close.
thank you for having your district on everything. I cannot tell you how much time I have spent trying to figure out what district like a candidate is running in a specific city. So thank you for that.
Oh,
That made it easy.
you're welcome.
Okay, I see we have our first question. Sherry.
Robert, I have to agree with Susanna that any friend of Margot's is a friend of mine.
Hey.
But I am kind of curious with all your varied experiences and all of the things that you've done, what do you think you can accomplish on the city council using your experience? And yeah, just your experience and what you've done before to accomplish, and what goal do you want to accomplish?
So, primarily bringing in real equity and real protections for our people. I have a lot of lived experience. I know what it's like to live in a house where you have 8 people, because that's my situation right now. I know what it's like to live on a fixed income, because being diagnosed with cancer at 26, I was able to get on Social Security disability. Um, and I do believe I can also draw a lot of public support, because I actually represent a lot of the constituents out here. I know how to code switch between talking formally and talking street side. So I do really well with connecting to people and actually encouraging them to vote. What I plan to accomplish is getting our city charter addressed so that we can address our voting system and reform that, because like I said, it does violate the California Voting Rights Act. If we do get sued, or if we get threatened with a lawsuit, we can be in a situation like Santa Monica, where there's like a $20 million lawsuit. And that's a lot of money, and we're not that bougie of a city. So I do believe that that's something that I can push for with a progressive majority on city council. The incumbent who is being termed out is he is very much a conservative, and if I get on, I'll be able to push us more in that progressive way. In District 6, we are primarily a BIPOC community of low-income people, many of them on fixed incomes. We usually don't have a big voter turnout, and I believe in my heart that it's because many of these voters do not see someone that represents them. I'm pretty much going to be the first, if I win, the first person of color for this district, as well as the first Filipino American in the city to hold any type of the office. And what I have learned is, while I've been canvassing, just talking to Filipinos, they've been crying just from my own act of resistance of saying, I'm trying to run for this to give you the representation and make sure you're protected. And if I can get that to translate into more civic engagement within the city, I do believe we can have enough pressure to push very progressive means in the city. So yeah, voting reform, which leads to stronger cases for rent control, which leads to stronger pushes for police accountability and transparency, and a safer community. I think I can push, or I think I can achieve that if I get into office.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome so much.
Thank you, Robert. Sherry, any more questions? Going once, twice? Okay, I do not see any more hands. And so Robert, take like a minute or so and wrap up and tell us why we should endorse you.
No questions. Y'all are tired of my voice already. Well, I'm charismatic. I lead with my heart. I don't really write down stump speeches or anything because I want it to be natural. I want proper representation, and I want someone that people can connect with, that can draw them into local politics. We get trampled on a lot in our local political spectrum because we don't have that voter engagement. And I believe that's because people don't see themselves being represented. They see the cost of living keep on going up, and the people over here, the politicians, just being petty, playing political drama theater. They they want people that will represent them, that will fight for them, that aren't going to try and distract them with, oh, so and so got money from XYZ. That doesn't help anybody. If we want to address a lot of that mudslinging, reforming our political or our voting system out here in San Leandro is number one, because this is one of the last bastions of that redlining and white supremacist systemic. I wanted to say a bad word, but I won't because I'm trying to be professional. Basura. We'll go with basura. And I'm really hoping that my act of resistance over here will help instigate more acts of resistance throughout the rest of the Bay. I'm coming in as an outsider. I didn't know any political figures coming in here other than the couple of politicians over here on city council that I've had drinks with. I come in as an activist. I come in as a person that wants to fix our community and protect our people so that they can grow strong roots here and they can be happy, and we can lower our number of rented out single family housing units. 44% of our housing units are renter occupied. How can we build a strong community if we're just building around the idea of renters that are going to be displaced eventually? We need to do something better to build strong, safe communities where people actually know their neighbors again. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that this act of defiance will continue and carry on in our neighboring cities, and that we can get more representation from people that care, people that aren't just picked out by the good old boys. We need that representation, and we need to be those rebels. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. And I really hope that I can get y'all's endorsement, because I only know a couple people and I would really appreciate any bit of help that I can get towards making our society safer and better.
Robert,
Thank
you had
you
me
very
with
much.
Bernie tattoos.
Hey, let's go. I'll send you some.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, back to you, Carol.
Okay, Robert, thank you so much. We're going to go to the next candidate now, Devin T. Murphy. I always like that he puts it in his name, and he's going to be introduced by Sherry Johansson.
Well, Carol, I have to say that I am so proud to introduce to the members once again, Councilman Devin Murphy. He was one of the first people to reach out to me when I moved from Alameda, which was kind of my stomping ground, to Pinole, and his warm greetings were just really, and welcome was just so important to me. So I really personally just want to thank him for reaching out to me. He's running for re-election to the Pinole City Council. He certainly has not had an easy job. He is the first African American. He's the first openly gay, and he was the youngest mayor in Pinole's 120-year anniversary years. So, you know, you can tell that going from the city of Alameda to Pinole was a hard jump for me. And Devin has made it a lot easier to see that there are progressives and that it's not just conservative people here. Like many of the communities in the East Bay, Pinole is facing very difficult choices in the coming years. They have financial problems. So Devin has to figure out how to lead this community through financial crisis, dealing with public safety, providing affordable housing, maintaining an aging infrastructure, which right now is forefront in a lot of the conversation. Yesterday, we tabled together at the farmers market in Pinole. And what I was most impressed with is how he engaged all of the members of the community, whether they were calling him out or whether they were saying, hey, Devin, you've done a good job, in a very calm, understanding, professional manner. And I think, as everyone is saying, in these days of divisiveness and all of the rhetoric that's going on, I was just so proud that we have politicians like elected officials like Devin, who can really listen to their constituents and who want to build community. So Devin, tell us about your campaign, what you have for in store for Pinole coming up.
Absolutely. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. And thank you for that amazing introduction, Sherry. I am so glad that you decided to move from Alameda to West County because we need you. And again, I'm so grateful to be in partnership with so many of you. Thank you for letting me be here and talk to you today about my reelection. It's been 4 years. I know we are all getting old. But we are not getting any less energy, I can tell, because so many of you all I saw 4 years ago as we took a journey, which was the amazing and extravagant experience of being on the Pinole City Council. And I say that jokingly because so many of you have helped me throughout this last 4 years as I have transitioned from a community organizer and a planning commissioner and someone you know, a young man from the Bay Area who decided to come back to the Bay after higher education and dig into the policy of local policy. And so I am running for re-election to the Pinole City Council, really to continue the progress we began in 2020. And in 2020, with the support of our Revolution East Bay, we won our seat for Pinole City Council. We received the highest number of votes of any candidate in Pinole's history, which accounted for about 56% of the vote count. And we raised over $30,000 within 6 months. And that was not an easy feat. And so many of you were here to make that possible. And I just wanted to, before, continuing, say thank you, because I'm really grateful for this community. And it not only has been such a driver in the work that I've done in my first tenure, but this community is also a driver as to why I'm continuing the fight at the local level to make sure we build a just and equitable society, specifically in Pinole, but also in the East Bay. After nearly 4 years on the city council, I've witnessed firsthand what positive and empathetic and effective leadership can have in our community. And my top 3 reasons for seeking re-election are continuity, community engagement, and of course, as I mentioned before, progress. And I'd like to share with you some of the amazing accomplishments we had during my tenure. For the last 12 years, Pinole residents have suffered from the closure of a fire station as fire danger in our region and across the state have obviously worsened. I'm proud to report to you all, if you haven't seen my social media or my newsletter or other things, that during my stint in my term as mayor, we reopened Pinole Fire Station 74 in partnership with the Contra Costa Fire Protection District. We secured $2 million annually from this from the county of Contra Costa County with Measure X sales tax. And this has now enhanced our fire and emergency medical services in our community. And very proud to have championed that from, again, my first year all the way to opening up that fire station during my term as mayor. But we didn't just do that. As we build a better Pinole, and as Sherry mentioned earlier, infrastructure is a critical and crumbling, unfortunately, piece of our city. We are trying to prepare for the present and the future, efficient and timely completion of construction projects and public works projects. And these are becoming more vital, especially with, the discussion at the national level, and of course, how we wake up in the morning and, either drive to work, go to school, or do what errands we need to run in the morning. And so that's also why I'm really proud to let you know that I've successfully championed and passed a citywide project labor agreement for all projects over $1 million. Again, this helps with developing efficient and timely completion of construction projects, especially our, resiliency projects and climate resiliency projects. And I'm also proud to, on the other side, as energy costs are rising, have negotiated over $2.5 million in utility debt relief, which has supported over 300 Pinole families from having their lights turned off, and many other families across the East Bay, in particular in Solano, Contra Costa, Marin, and Napa counties. And last but not least, as Sherry mentioned, I've been so honored to serve as the first African American, first openly gay, and of course, youngest mayor in our 120 years history. And with that, have really tried to celebrate not only my diversity, but also our community's diversity and what it means to embrace the rich diversity of the new Pinole. And that has included hosting celebrations, inaugural celebrations, from our Pinole Joint Pride Juneteenth celebration to our Lunar New Year celebration, as well as our Pinole Centenarians reception, which honors Pinoleans who are 100 years or older. Our diversity is our greatest strength in Pinole and what also unifies us. And so I'm really honored to be able to celebrate Pinole this way. Again, I can list off a lot of things I've done, but I think it's really important that I thank you all, more importantly, for giving me both the grace, the commitment, the discipline, and also the confidence in my leadership to continue making laws at the most local level. I cannot say how important this space has been for my own development and growth. And thank you for the opportunity to chat today. I really believe that together we can build on these successes and forge an even brighter future for Pinole and, of course, the East Bay together.
Thank you so much, Devin. I'm going to ask you the first question. It's not really a question. It's sort of, every time I leave my driveway, I see all of these buildings being built in Pinole. Can you tell us a little bit about the housing boom that you've been part of?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, housing has always been something important to me as someone growing up in San Francisco. In Baby Hunters Point, I end up, like many Black families in San Francisco, being displaced. We moved to Vacaville, and then after living in Vacaville, lived in Los Angeles. And so just, housing stability was always an issue in my life as like one of, four sons of a mother who did her hardest to just, live and, increase our quality of life. And so as a council member, I really, housing access and affordability, especially in a city like Pinole, was really important for me to champion. And so many of you who visit Pinole oftentimes do see a lot of construction because, for the last 20 years, we haven't built much housing in Pinole, both single family housing, but also apartments and townhomes and multifamily housing. And so over the last 2 years, we've built really more housing in our building and completing projects more than we have in the last 20 years, which I'm really proud to have championed. Two of those projects that I think speak most to not only our commitment to building housing in Pinole, but making sure we get the resources to the most vulnerable and marginalized communities who really need housing most during this time, have been our Saha project, which is a complex for homeless veterans. And so we're building, actually, it's an all electric 32 unit complex for veterans, and right on San Pablo Avenue. And we're also really excited to build a new, a pretty large unit of over 120 units complex for affordable housing complex for seniors on San Pablo Avenue as well. Aside from that, we also have 2 other projects of building like new condominiums and townhomes, which are just getting off the square foot. They used to be a doctor's hospital that was sold a long time ago. Many of you know Doctors Medical Hospital. And so that's getting off the ground as well. But really, this is it's exciting to have these projects really be developed, but it's also a testament of our both relationships and building with folks who are trying to not just build for, rich and wealthy, but also people who do seek to build for affordable housing and folks who are at the margins of many of the issues all of us face, but they face deeply. And so it also is a testament to some of the kind of policy making we had to do, which we noticed early on in my time on council that our developer fees were really, really high. And in particular, those weren't going to like park impact fees, but it was just like excessive amount. And so it really deterred people from coming and having conversations about housing in Pinole. And so we really made some more equitable changes into our master fee schedule, which I think also helped us have kind of stronger partnerships with folks who are building affordable housing.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Boy, okay. Going once, going twice. Nobody? Okay, do you have anything further to say, Devin, or do we just
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say, again, thank you all for your support. I'm really, really excited about the second time. I say that joking, I say that laughing because it is a lot of work. And so I'm so grateful to serve and be of service to my community. And also just like, thank you all for just staying in this with me, because I think we really, co-governance is critical during this time and local government. I'm really honored to have, endorsements, including from the District Attorney Dinah Becton, the California State Controller Malia Cohen, County Supervisor John Joya, as well as AC Transit Director Javanka Beckles. And so, I'm honored to again be in support of the work that you all are doing, our revolution nationally is doing, and looking forward to the opportunity to again dig in and implement the vision for Pinole's future and the East Bay, of course, together.
We're grateful to you, but Devin. Yeah.
Okay.
Devin, thank you so much for coming. I know you're one of these people that are working about 25 hours a day, so thanks for taking the time. Okay, we're moving on now. Next, we're going to hear from Melvin Willis, and then we're going to hear from John Chip Moore, who's running for an office in Berkeley.
Yay.
So, Melvin, we're happy to have you here, and we're going to have Mark introduce you.
Oh, I'll make it quick. We have so many stars with us today, and Melvin's certainly a star. For the city of Richmond, he was there for increasing the minimum wage. He was there for rent control. He was there for banning the box, funding youth programs. I could list dozens and dozens more. He ran a very courageous campaign for mayor of Richmond. If he was elected, he could have saved the city a lot of grief. As organizing director for ACE, Richmond City Council member for District 1. We want to see him go above and beyond the council, but we're so grateful that he's there. He is Melvin Willis. Melvin.
Thank you, Mark. And good morning. Well, not morning. Ooh, I am tired. Forgive me, y'all. I don't even know what day it is. I keep on forgetting it's even Sunday. But yes, once again, my name's Melvin Willis. I am running for re-election for Richmond City Council in District 1. Good to see y'all again, our Revolution East Bay. It's actually been a while since there's been an in-person meeting. I think the last in-person meeting I remember seeing y'all at was at somewhere in Rock Ridge. And we were in that little restaurant for a little while. And it was a great gathering. So hopefully one day we'll be able to gather again in person. I'm running for re-election for the third time, Richmond City Council in District 1. I'm a lifelong Richmond resident. And honestly, when I first got involved in politics, there was honestly never really a desire for me growing up to get involved in politics. I thought that was for a special kind of person. That was not me. In 2011, when I got involved at ACE, it gave me a chance to get out to the community that I lived in my entire life. So I used to be a victim, both literally and figuratively, but a victim of the philosophy that I couldn't go to certain places in Richmond or even connect with community members because it was dangerous. And door knocking challenged that philosophy, got me to connect with other people who felt the same concerns I felt about the city and wanted to have just general improvements so we could all feel happy and proud of where we're living in. And having that ability to bring people together and get power numbers, and just not only making sure folks know how they can use their voice and where they can use their voice to make sure that their solutions are being heard, but making sure that I'm joining them as one unified voice, pushing for changes that we need. In my last 4 years, when the pandemic happened, I was one of the first folks to email our city manager and ask them to do an emergency moratorium on evictions because I already knew people were going to lose their jobs, go into debt, homelessness, it was going to be bad. And we continued that eviction moratorium and tied it into the statewide emergency order. When we got the American Rescue Act plan money, we put that towards homeless mitigation. We put that towards rental assistance. We also put that towards various programs just to support folks who are struggling and just transition them out of that homeless situation as much as possible. And we even just put some money towards supporting small businesses who have been still needing to be recovering from the impacts of the pandemic and set that aside with our recent money. One of the things that I'm most proud of is we actually got grant money from the state and we had a surplus in our budget. So with that surplus last year, we allocated some money to go towards retrofitting and modernizing our historic library, which when I first got elected in 2016, I remember the city manager I talked to basically did not have any hope for the library, and seeing that narrative be challenged was extremely exciting for me, and we're going to break down ground in 2025. I also worked with labor unions to pass hazard pay for the city of Richmond as well. And during the defund the police movement, I am still a facilitator of the Contra Costa County Racial Justice Coalition. So we were doing a big push on the county to defund the sheriff's department, especially after some of the police involved shootings of unarmed folks who were going through a mental health crisis happened from their officers. We weren't necessarily able to defund the sheriff. However, through that work, we were able to pass the A3 program, which is the Miles Hall Mental Crisis Response Unit through Contra Costa County. And that got funded through another ballot initiative that passed through the county, which was called Measure X, which was a half-cent sales tax that generates about $100 million almost a year, and advocated for a community board to have recommendation power over 95% of the proceeds every single year, and fought for that at the county too. And just recently, between last year and this year, we pushed the county to pass $30,000 to go towards a feasibility study for an African-American wellness and holistic center because we don't have that in Contra Costa. And they just invested $7.5 million this year, along with $1 million last year, to go towards organizations who are already providing services for African Americans. And in Richmond, we did take $3 million of overtime funding that was in the police budget, combined that with some ARPA money, created 500 youth jobs for small businesses, are doing our own crisis response unit here in Richmond. And we just hired a crisis response manager and allocated more money to homeless services and rental assistance to mitigate the housing crisis we're in. And statewide, I pushed to close loopholes in our statewide just cause for eviction that I also helped pass in 2019 in the form of AB 1482. And we closed out loopholes that were being abused, basically allowing folks to evict somebody because they say, hey, I'm going to renovate the house. You got to move out. You can come back in, but the rent's going to be $3,000 as opposed to $1,000 from before. So we were able to address those loopholes and even pushing for housing to be a constitutional human right. So I just go where the issues are. I believe in working with my community. I believe in humility, knowing that I'm not the smartest person on the planet, and we have to work with people with lived experiences, make sure their voice is at the table, and just fight for a solution that is just and helps uplift the most in need. And that's why I'm running for Richmond City Council, to address human trafficking, strengthen our labor and workforce, and give youth and others an opportunity to get a career without necessarily having to go to college, and just bolstering our trade programs and continuing to address the growing affordable housing crisis that we're in, because it's an ongoing need and people deserve to have housing and shelter over their heads.
Okay. Thank you, Melvin, for that impressive roster of achievements. Any questions for Melvin? All right, Shay.
Oh, come on. Somebody's got to ask a question. I know Melvin really told us a lot. Okay, I think Michael's got one.
So Chevron is an important entity in city of Richmond. And recently there's a proposal to add some tax to the crude oil that they processed. What do you feel about this?
I voted for it to put it on the ballot. It is a refinery tax that would, if it passes, it would charge $1 per barrel of whatever fuel that they are refining, and that would be the tax. It's a refinery tax. It's also, when we're looking into the future, refineries are not the future. We need to do a just transition, because we are in a climate crisis, and just having a refinery, especially so close to very low income people of color communities where it is flaring every single night, they're making money in our community at the cost of people's safety and impacts on their health. So they can pay $1 per barrel and any refinery that comes to Richmond, if there are any in the future, can pay $1 per barrel just for that impact alone. And if I'm not mistaken, considering they're already getting in a way, a subsidy or a tax write-off by still being under Prop 13 and not paying exactly what their commercial business taxes would be if they were actually paying for what they're worth this year. It's kind of making up for that if this does pass, in my opinion.
I have a follow-up questions. I have some connection with people who work at Chevron. From them, I heard that the Chevron top level people would say, since Chevron contributes to good amount of outreach effort in Richmond, if they were forced to pay this tax, this outreach effort will be cut down a bit. How do you combat that statement?
I mean, I would have to ask, what kind of outreach effort are they doing? And actually, Jovanka said it the best. If they're giving to nonprofits, that's a tax write-off for them, and it's also good PR for them to be involved in the community. And once again, they have a business that is literally a bomb that is flaring every day and polluting our communities. The least they could do is establish good connection with community members who are impacted by their business model every single day. And also, if this refinery measure should pass, we shouldn't be relying on private institutions to show compassion for our community. This tax would have given us the ability to actually bolster services that people desperately need, because the reality for Richmond is we have a very lean budget where we're able to do a lot, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done on violence prevention, on mental health, on just even making sure people in the community have the services that they need and the counseling that they need to be able to sustain themselves. There's always been this breakdown and separation between people in the community and the services that are available, and even the services that are available are very finite. So it's really always playing this lottery system and doing the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And our people in Richmond deserve more resources. And if you're going to be making millions upon millions upon billions of dollars every single year and using Richmond as a location to make your bottom line, Richmond deserves as much as we can get in a fair and just way. And if the Richmond residents decide that a refinery tax is what they need in order to fulfill those services and give them the resources they need, well, then Richmond residents need to have a say at that at the ballot box, and I gave that to them. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Melvin Willis. I think he said it. I think he said it.
Sorry, Chevron kind of agitates me too a little bit in general, so forgive me. I love the workers, work, please. As a corporation, I don't expect corporations to show compassion for low-income residents.
Well, maybe someday we'll have that expectation.
Well, actions speak louder than words, right? So we'll see what they do.
Okay, thank you so much, Melvin.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Okay, we'll catch you later.
All right, take care. I appreciate y'all interviewing. I hope I can count on the endorsement for our revolution. And yeah, I'll see you around this coming up election year too. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, moving along. Our next candidate is John Chip Moore,
Yay.
who is running for a seat here in Berkeley. He is running against the incumbent. The incumbent is somebody we did not invite. We've heard from him before. He isn't really in line with what we're about. I've only met John one time. Do you want to be called John or Chip?
Please call me Chip. They only call me John on my taxes and ballots.
I got it.
Everybody calls me Chip.
Okay, I only met Chip one time, and that's when we were at a small meeting. I know Michael was there, Alfred, a couple other people, and we talked about running together as a slate for the people-powered progressives to be elected to
Alameda County's Democratic Central Committee.
You got it. Anyway,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and I told him that he told us then he's going to run for a seat, and we says, hey, who'll be talking to you? Anyway,
and
so let me tell you a little bit about him. I looked him up on the internet. He's the chair of the Berkeley Police Accountability Board. And I already mentioned that he ran with a number of us for Alameda County Central Committee. He's on the City of Berkeley Planning Commission. He's the former chair of Berkeley's BART Community Advisory Group. Let's see, he also led Berkeley Unified School District Reparation Task Force. I believe he's a grad student at Goldman. Is that correct?
I am.
Okay. And he also worked on developing and launching cannabis companies.
That is my background.
All right. Which I thought, wow, that's interesting. Anyway, so folks, welcome Chip.
Hello all, how are we doing today? Greetings and salutations. My name is Chip Moore, and like Carroll explained to you a little bit, I am more aligned with Berkeley values than the city council that we have right now. So it's my goal to go ahead and reestablish what makes Berkeley's diversity, inclusivity, and equity so important. I've lived here in Berkeley for the last 17 years. I call this place home. I have been incorporated. The work that I've done, and I'm not talking about my professional work, I'm very proud of the work I've done in cannabis. I'm one of the few African-American men that broke through the glass ceiling and were at the highest levels of the cannabis game. And for that, I make no apologies. At the same time, I stepped away from my cannabis work to focus more on public policy. You know, I'm at the Goldman School as a candidate for a Master's of Public Affairs. I took out this education as an investment in our neighborhood. The things that I want to do, I had to have a few alphabet letters behind my name to get them done. And I know that, and I'm putting in the work now so that we can have the future for the next generation, for the people that have been here and live here and call Berkeley home, and for the people that are being priced out every day. So that's who I'm fighting for. That's who I am. I can tell you my main differences from my opponents. I'm a ceasefire candidate, as you know. Mike and Carroll will tell you, I believe in that. I believe in teaching ethnic liberation studies at BUSD. My opponents do not. I believe that Pamela Price should be in her position and that the whole Democratic Party should support her. I don't believe my opponents believe the same thing. So I also, as a planning commissioner, as the chair of the CAG, I've been intimately kept in the loop about the Ashby Bart development. I know what the city wants. I know what my opponent wants, but again, it's not in line with our values. I have a plan. I have a plan for affordable housing and for a right of return policy for African Americans in our district, and a way that we can have teachers, nurses, firefighters, police all get subsidized housing in the same plan. And it'll be a way for you not only to retain the people that work in Berkeley, but it's hard to over police the people you call your neighbors. So I've got some ideas. I've got a lot of momentum on the ground, and I have people that believe and support me. What I'd like is to add you guys to my numbers. So, I mean, that's all I have for now, but I love questions. And if you have anything, I'm ready to take them.
Don't be shy. I have a small question. You mentioned the people that are running against you. How many people are running besides you?
So it's the incumbent, who's Ben Bartlett, and Deborah Matthews is the vice president of the Berkeley Democratic Club. She's ran against Ben before, and yeah, she's Republican light.
Okay.
She's a real estate agent.
Uh-huh. That says a lot, actually. Okay, Sherry.
Tip, it's really nice to hear from you. Like I've asked everybody else, I think it's really important, especially for new people in office, to realize that you're not going to be able to do all your goals. You have to kind of concentrate your efforts and figure out what you're going to be the most effective in being able to pursue, especially at the beginning. So what is your most important issue that you want to tackle? And how do you think you can go about that?
So my most important, the one that I feel like should be the focus, not only of my candidacy, but of the work that I do, is the Ashby Bart development. I tried for years, we've been in 10 years of this, to develop a plan within the community. We've had numerous community plans come up and they've been swatted away. It's always been, we don't have the money. There's no way we can do 100% affordable. No one will want to live here. I've heard all these excuses. I have a plan. I have a plan that will create affordable housing, 100% affordable housing, will be a retention plan for the people, the municipal workers, and the people that serve the city of Berkeley, but they have to travel 2 hours to get here. That's ridiculous. That's not Berkeley values. And somewhere we've lost that. My district, District 3, is the last working man's district in Berkeley. And I'm the last candidate who wants to make sure that history and that I'd say those principles aren't gone. When BART came into South Berkeley and the Ashby BART, they ripped out the economic engine of our neighborhood. It's also a red line neighborhood. I want to build back an economic driver within this development. I want to make sure that there's community benefits over $100 million, not only to the development, the big building, but to the whole community. This has been done all over the world. This isn't new. This isn't crazy. There's just a lack of political will from our leaders that are in the position now to do the right thing. That's why I'm standing up. Ben Bartlett appointed me to my boards and positions. Because we're not aligned, I'm directly going after it. Hopefully, if I even lose, it's pushing him to the left. But I don't do anything and plan to lose, just so you know. So that's my best answer.
Thank you.
Joaquin, do you want to say something?
Yeah. I think on the questionnaire, you said that, I don't know if you're taking public Berkeley financing or there was
Yes,
some,
100%.
huh?
100% public financing. My
Okay,
opponent, the incumbent, is not.
okay. And, you had said, I think that, you didn't want to take money from unions or business. I mean, that's part of the public financing, but are you a union supporter?
I am a union supporter. We're not taking any union money, so there can't be any questions about the police unions. There can't be any questions about, and because we're already doing the $60 public auction, it was very comfortable for us to say we're not taking money from any entities, just individuals.
Okay,
I'm 100% community support.
okay, great.
I have
Michael,
I have a question. I don't know if you saw this in the spring primary. I forgot which district, and when some outside force is sending out very ugly looking pamphlet against one of the candidates.
oh yeah, oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. If those outside forces doing that to you, how would you go against it?
I'm made for that stuff. I love it. I'm not a politician. I'm a political leader who happens to be a fighter. So if they want to come at me and they want to bring, and it could very well be, police unions don't like me. And so if there's going to be an LA union who wants to come and spend a couple thousand on me, I want to make sure that I have the support behind me that will stand up and call this out in a bigger and stronger way. I like Solly. I thought Solly didn't get an opportunity to tackle that the way he should have. And it wasn't his fault. This was like dirty, underhanded politics. I could probably point a finger at who did it, but I'm not going to do that here. I just know that you have to respond quickly. You can't just react, and you have to make sure you control the narrative and the message. And that's what I'm going to do when they come at me. I'm going to make sure I give the people the real story. My campaign, we have an amazing website. Please check us out. It's www.chipinberkeley.vote or www.chipinberkeley.com. Either one works. And we're on every social media platform. We've got about 20 volunteers right now. My campaign manager was Ron Dellum's last chief of staff. We're ready to go. I'm not playing around.
Thank you.
Okay, Joaquin, did you have a question?
Oh, sorry, no,
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Chip? Okay, I guess that does it. Hey, it was really nice to have you here. And it was nice
Thank
to
you for
find out
having me.
about you and what you've done with marijuana. I'm not a smoker, but I'm a strong supporter.
I appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna move to our next guest. Did he make it on here? I see him waving. Kalimah Priforce, and he's going to be introduced by Sherry.
Kalimah, we're glad you made it. There was a little, questions there. Kalimah calls himself the people's voice on the Emeryville City Council. And the voters must have agreed because he was one of the highest vote getters and became the first Haitian American elected to office, I think, in the whole East Bay, maybe even in the state of California. Now he's running for mayor of Emeryville. And quite frankly, Kalimah, I have to say that I don't quite understand how the process works. So if you can kind of tell us a little bit more about how you're doing this campaign and what it's about and some of your values, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'm on the road, so I apologize if I get caught off. But I should be home shortly. I see Emeryville right there. It's just a little traffic. When I first got into politics, I got in as somebody who not just had a background in tech and nonprofit industry, and as someone who's been a known activist, a hacktivist actually, in the East Bay, around the country. President Obama awarded me with the Champion of Change Award, and there were already several documentaries about the work that I've done. So I was already somebody who had a life, that had a profession, that had a background that allowed me to come into politics as a tenant organizer, as someone who saw what was happening in Emeryville. And you all have seen me, I guess, grow as someone who was very inexperienced in politics. And I learned about why our tenant protections are so weak in Emeryville. I learned why Emeryville isolates itself from the rest of the region strategically, to make sure that people don't look at what happens in Emeryville and how Emeryville can advance developer interests, how Emeryville has become this sort of YIMBY jewel for developers. That yes, we are growing exponentially, and I don't want to slow that growth. But at the same time, we do have a deficit, and unlike other cities that have options, there hasn't been a real fiscal discipline and growth plan in Emeryville, because we've just said yes. We said yes to developers, and now we're in a very difficult place. My politics, which is progressive populism, is about being someone who focuses on the abolition of poverty. And also my background has looked at poverty on so many different levels, not just fiscal, financial, but I have focused on what is it that I can do to make the lives of Emeryville residents and workers better. And that means standing for workers. That means standing for renters. That means even standing for single family owners. And you guys have seen me consistently do this. While that's been happening, they changed the rules, right? They changed the rules so that Emeryville no longer rotates its mayorship. They changed the rules so that them being able to select who becomes mayor is specially crafted to make sure, and it's been done 3 times, it's under John Botters, to make sure that I would never become mayor. And so a lot of the community in Emeryville said, well, Kalimah, here's an opportunity that there are 3 seats that are available in Emeryville, and we can have people challenge those seats, but we need you to run for mayor. We need you as mayor. You can raise the money, you can galvanize the support, you can create a slate of candidates who will run against them. And I said, okay, well, then I don't know how that works. And so I've been going back and forth with FFPC, and they've been telling me a lot of great things. They're like, oh yeah, well, this is kind of unprecedented. But you can do this, right? There's nothing legally that's stopping you from doing this. You have to just create a special type of committee, whatever. And so that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for an endorsement for my run as mayor. And so the people of Emeryville know that the candidates that I will select to run as a slate, sorry, I'm on the road, that these candidates are supportive of my becoming mayor. And then when I become mayor, one of the first things I will do is codify a more democratic process to make sure that no one ever has to do anything like this ever again, where they have to replace an entire slate of city council members. And unfortunately, they are Democrats. Unfortunately, they're going to be Democrats that more than likely are going to be endorsed by the local Alameda County Democratic Party, because they're incumbents. At the same time, they're also Democrats who aren't very liked in the city of Emeryville. I mean, they're liked by some folks and maybe in Oakland and other places, but in Emeryville, we're tired. We're tired of candidates, these incumbents who have taken to Twitter to say the most atrocious things, and then when you question or challenge them, then it becomes respectability politics. When in actuality, the people of Emeryville are tired of folks coming in. And I've been in Emeryville for now 14 years, who come in and use Emeryville as like a platform that doesn't really serve the people. And that's what my campaign will be about. And that's like my campaign was prior to running, and that's what it'll be about this time around. So I'm asking for the endorsement. I'm going to make the formal announcement on the 20th, and I'm going to have a press conference, and during that press conference later on that day will be the launch of Emory Rising, which will be our first neighborhood group in Emeryville. And I'd love to talk about our coalition. I'd love to talk about how we're going to raise money. I'd like to talk about how we're going to make this happen. But having our Revolution East Bay as our endorsement when we launch, I think will help us, with this endeavor. And so that's what I have to say.
Now, Kalimah, will you come back to us then for an endorsement of your slate? Is that the plan?
Yes, and so there'll be, I'm asking for endorsement to run as mayor, and my slate members will all individually ask for the endorsement. And so the process starts July 15th, and the deadline is August 15th. And I'm still vetting candidates, but at the launch of Emory Rising, I'm actually going to have the top candidates actually go before the people, and the people will ask them questions about how are you going to serve us? And then depending on how the people respond, then I will select those candidates. So these are not just candidates who are like my friends or anything, but these are candidates who I feel are going to really represent the people. And then I say, okay, I'll back you guys, and I support you all running. And I believe that this political season, that of course people's eyes are on the presidential race, people's eyes are on the recalls. I'm not supportive of the recalls. I actually just left hanging out with Madam DA Price, that people are going to be looking at San Francisco mayoral race. But I believe that what happens in Emeryville is going to send shockwaves throughout Sacramento.
Super. Any other questions for our very ambitious Kalimah? Anybody have a question? Okay, we're looking forward to. Oh wait, there's Joaquin.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
Hey, I know your emphasis on housing is very good in Emeryville. I just wonder, you have a short, quick explanation of the difference between YIMBYs and NIMBYs. And
yes,
somebody said, question, do you support infill housing? Is that a YIMBY or a NIMBY? What the heck's going on?
Yeah, so I don't ascribe to either YIMBYism or NIMBYism, because the thing that I focus on a lot is what is the experience of people of color, particularly Black people, and particularly the poor, as it relates to housing. And YIMBY and NIMBY don't care about either of us, right? And so my focus is, so rather than focus on protectionism or gentrification of solutions, which is the difference, right? YIMBY is gentrification, straight up gentrification, right? And so when YIMBY shows up, the numbers of Black people in a particular area shoot down. When you look at even the home ownership rates of Black people in Emeryville, since we became more of a YIMBY city, has declined. And so I'm not a fan of YIMBYism, and I'm also definitely not a fan of NIMBYism, of protectionism, of preventing housing where we need housing. The problem is that just like YIMBY in the fall is not supporting rent control, right? That we have to make sure that we are building housing, and that we are establishing housing, and that we are looking at more better ways of housing, like social housing, that we want to make sure that people are able to stay in their homes. And that's the most important thing. Start with that. So rather than going the YIMBY route or the NIMBY route, or which, whether or not I'm going to be developer supported or not developed, whatever the case may be, focus on the people, focus on whether or not the person can stay in their home. So in Emeryville, I've been focused on, for the first time, BMR tenant protections that we have not passed in Emeryville. They had opportunities to pass it, they did not. So focused on that, focused on tenants' right to organize. So that's actually being focused on that, and we're adopting what San Francisco has, as well as the ability to to provide legal support to those who are facing evictions, which is with the city of San Francisco is the only city I believe that has that in the entire state of California. And so these are some of the things that I have been focused on, which is tenant protections and making sure that when hopefully when rent control passes in November, that Emeryville will be one of the cities that will be ready for some democratization when it comes to renting and housing. So YIMBY, I'm not a fan. NIMBY, I'm not a fan. And I think people have already seen from social media and the way I interact with people that when you're associated with both, I tend to not want to be associated with you.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Can we move along? I think we all have, another thing that Kalimah does is he shows up, which I always appreciate, but he's at the events and he's there for a lot of our events. I think a lot of us have already been able to meet him. Any other questions? Okay, Carol, let's move it along.
Okay, thank you very much. I know it was a little touch and go there getting you anyway, but thank you for making it.
No problem. Thank you.
We'll talk soon. We're going to the final candidate for today. I think some of you have heard from him before. He's an OR East Bay member, and he's going to be introduced by Susanna.
Thank you, Carol. Hey, Vinnie. Welcome to our crazy little endorsement process here. So Vinnie is running for Fremont mayor, and as a Fremont City Council person, he was the first and probably to this day still the only council member to not take developer money. I feel your pain. We have that problem here in Antioch. Everything for so long was just driven by developer money, and it's caused all sorts of problems everywhere. So I've been on the front lines with Vinnie with the progressive faction with the California Democratic Party. Vinnie was a part, I'm not sure if you still are, of the Progressive Caucus. He was on the board for the California Democratic Party, which is the largest caucus within the party by far. He's been involved in Fremont politics for, I'm sure, for what seems like forever. He's definitely a community leader. Major Bernie supporter. He's been in the trenches with all of us. We've seen him on bazillion of these meetings, asked him for help with all sorts of things. So thank you for being here. And Vinnie, take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, Carol, I was actually out precinct walking and I didn't put on enough sunscreen and it's hot here in Fremont. I got back about 4 o'clock and I just laid down for a while. And then anyway, I heard you left a voicemail and I said, oh, whoa. So
well, you're here.
Yeah, huge. It's funny. I just happened to have a shirt on it, the Pride, Our Revolution shirt. So whenever I'm talking to Bernie Kratz, I like to mention, I think 2 key things about Bernie is he said, run for office. And of course, he talked about corporate money in politics. And both of those things, it was actually back in 2008 when I first decided to run for office. So I got that. I got the importance of running for office and, trying to make a difference that way. And as Susanna mentioned, I was the first in Fremont's history to say, I don't take developer money. Because I really see it's a conflict of interest when you're taking money from developers and then all of a sudden a project comes up and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll vote for that. That guy gave me, all sorts of money. And I really emphasize, the develop. People ask like, gee, that's all you talk about, developer money. Well, as a local elected official, that is what we deal with. You could ask me about, my stance on the military-industrial complex, and I'm like, okay, I'll give you that. I think you guys would like it, but it's really not applicable to what I'm going to do as mayor of Fremont. Same thing as far as like, the national issue on, abortion or something like that. It's just development issues are what we deal with as local electeds. So I focus a lot on housing. I really wish Kalimah had stayed around, but I would just say everything Kalimah said, I totally agree with. I met him a while back and we talked about NIMBY versus YIMBY. And I was like, Kalimah, hey, you're a great guy. Can we work together? And actually we did work together on the Alameda County Democratic Party Central Committee, the slate we put together. We put together a central slate of progressives there. Anyway, I could go on. I think, I've been around you guys. I've been endorsed with you guys. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I really, the one thing I would say about housing is it is so critically important. People don't think about development, but you wonder, like, why is my city the way it is? Why don't we have enough affordable housing? Why do I walk outside and, there's not like a community area where people gather? It might not be applicable so much to Berkeley or, there, but in Fremont, I can tell you, seeing the way things are developed, especially now that I'm out precinct walking in all these areas, and I see just areas where developers were just given a green light to do whatever they want, and they just build these massive, housing, unaffordable, unsustainable, environmentally unfriendly places with just, $2 million homes. And all of it's, of course, auto oriented. There's nothing there like, retail or even a place for, people to gather. It's just homes. And of course, all these people have to drive, and they're unaffordable. So anyway, I think it's just, people don't really understand, why are our communities, so messed up? Why is transportation so messed up? Well, we've let the developers just develop as they want. There hasn't been any good planning. So anyway, I'll get off my high horse, and I have to brag. This is the first time I've really used this Facebook backdrop. It looks kind of good. I just got to put my head in the right place. There we go. Anyway, thank you guys for all you do at OR East Bay. So
thank you, Vinnie.
thank you, Mark. And yeah, I see lots of friendly faces here. And anyway, I'm happy to answer questions, or I am enough of a politician. I can go on and on if you want.
I think Sherry has a question for you.
Vinnie, I've been with you for all these struggles, and in fact, at the Alameda City Council Central Committee, there was like a little small huddle of us. And all the challenges that we face. So that's kind of what my question is what do you think the challenge of not so much what you want to do for Fremont, but of getting elected for this position, and how can we help?
I think, it's funny. I think you guys all know that, Kelsey Presnell founded Fund Progressives, which was the Bernie group for Southern Alameda County. And now that is no more. Kelsey is busy with some other things, and we've decided to merge that into our Democratic club, the Southern Alameda County Progressive Democrats. So our Revolution East Bay, East Bay needs to go all the way down to Fremont now. And I think, I know Fremont is unfortunately not the hotbed of progressivism that, Oakland and Berkeley are. Sorry, that's the reality of it. But I think reaching out to those members, we do have a number of Bernie people in Fremont. It's not a large number, but there are some, and definitely reaching out to them, whatever we can do to help there. I will just say the Central Committee, I see a lot of people who worked with on Central Committee, and that was, I think they saw the progressives coming. They saw that we could have taken over the Central Committee, and they really put a lot of money into fighting us. And it's sad that we're kind of back to where we definitely will be a minority. I am elected. I will be there. I'll fight as best I can on the Central Committee. But yeah, we will have the likes of Lauren Taylor and a lot of other people. Anyway, but yeah, whatever, definitely reaching out to the our Revolution members in the Fremont area will be definitely helpful. So.
Okay, I think I'm the next person. You just talked about what Fremont is like and how it's all these houses and there's not much of anything. But I remember just recently hearing it was proclaimed the best city in the US to raise a family. Can you comment on that?
They were the happiest city in the country. I don't know how that got to be. It's funny, we have a theory that they look at divorce rates, and in Fremont, divorce rates are very low. I think because I didn't realize it is part of, Indian culture. You just don't get divorced. You don't do it. And I think they look at that, and I don't know, we have good education system here, and it's kind of an overgrown bedroom community. It's fairly affluent, crime is pretty low. So there are some good things about it. I moved here originally. It was, I was with my ex and we wanted a place to raise a family. It's, somewhat close to, I didn't know where I'd be working, but, I had Bart, so I could work wherever. So it does have a number of things going for it, but I don't know, those things like happiest city or, I don't know, best city to get married in. I don't know. They're kind of hokey in my opinion. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
But we were mentioned on Saturday Night Live. Yeah. I'm sorry, we were mentioned on Saturday Night Live. They actually called us out for that. So.
Okay. Anybody else have a question for Vinnie or comment? No?
Just keep up the good fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying. So that's the most thing I will say one thing. I'm happy to say I do have a few youth working on my campaign. Just had 3 of them over at our house today doing some precinct walking, and there are some youth that really do get it. And one of them actually is I have a funny story to tell. I won the executive committee slate for the party. And I did participate in the last e-board, where, as you know, they were electing DNC members. And so, of course, I got all the mailers, all the, as having a vote there from all these people. And one guy is this young guy who says, hey, I want to help, I want your vote for DNC. I'm a, Gen Z DNC guy. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I've seen all these other ones. It turns out he later emails me. He says, Vinnie, I'm studying at UCSD, but I'm from Fremont. My mom loves you. She's always supported you. I'll be there this summer and I'll be helping you out. And he was actually just over at our house today. And the good thing about this guy is he's not just a young Democrat, some of the sellout Democrats we know, but he's actually, we had the Progressive Caucus interviewed all of the DNC candidates, and he was there, and everybody loved him so much that at the e-board meeting, when we had our Progressive Caucus meeting, we said, we want you on our panel. So he really gets it. And sadly, he didn't get elected because, the DNC establishment, they have their grip on power, and they're not about to give it to some, Gen Z or, who has progressive tendencies. They, the establishment pretty much dominated in that e-board election, or sorry, DNC election. So anyway, that's enough for me, but I will try to get up that way. But of course, from now until November 5th, I will be basically staying put in Fremont, but definitely, proud of all the work you guys do, and glad to be a part of our Revolution East Bay, because I am indeed in the East Bay. So
thanks, Vinnie. I remember talking to that DNC candidate. He was super impressive. I tried to muster as many votes for him as I could.
Yeah. No, he's good. Sanjay. Yeah, he's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Vinnie, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And again, apologize for being late. So.
Well, you weren't late. You had to wait a couple minutes to get on. We were just worried you weren't going to make it.
Well, as you can tell, I've got some sun today. I think that really works. I came home and I'd be like 4 o'clock, and I was
So what we're going to do, this will be up on, and I'm saying this partly for the people who are here, who are coming to our next meeting. This will be put up on YouTube in the next day or so. And a lot of people that will be voting actually see it on YouTube. We have more people watch our meetings on YouTube 2 days after the fact than we have actually come to them. And then once it gets up there, we will be sending out the ballots.
OPA vote.
Yeah, and we've moved to OPA vote. We're no longer using SurveyMonkey. And this will be our first time. Anyway, so I think that's about all I have to say. We're past time. Next Sunday, for anybody that wants to come, Wellstone and our Revolution East Bay and the John George Democratic Club are together having a picnic at Bushrod Park in Oakland from 12 to 3. Everybody's welcome. An activity that some of us in OREB are doing right now, we're working on making this 32-foot banner that says Free Palestine. And we're going to be going over probably the Gilman pedestrian ramp on Friday between 3 and 6. And there's 2 other groups doing ramps nearby. So there's going to be 3 of us in a row at the same time, alerting to people to what's going on in Palestine a little bit. So,
Carol or Michael, do you want to talk about the mayor forum that we're
Michael.
sponsoring?
Yeah, I can talk about the Berkeley Mayoral Forum coming up next week, Wednesday, starting at 5 p.m. at the Way Christian Center on University Avenue. All 3 candidates as of now, Kate Harrison, Adena Ishi, and Sophie Han, are scheduled to appear in the forum. We have prepared a list of 8 questions to be sent out to the candidate ahead of time. The event will be on Zoom. There's a Zoom link. If you check the announcement, there's everywhere. The announcement is everywhere. It will be on it. And also there will be questions from the audience, live audience in the church. And from 5 to 6:30. You're all welcome to come. There will be a light refreshment be served because it's dinner time. We don't want people have low blood pressure. That's the word.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. So the way we close our meetings is anybody who's here who hasn't said anything, and we particularly want people that maybe we don't know, if they feel comfortable, if they'd introduce themselves or say something, if they'd like to. Do we have any people here that would like to do that? What candidates or whatever? No, okay. Oh, wait. Tanya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Love. I'm sorry I'm off camera. I'm kind of eating dinner a little bit, but I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to join this meeting, even though I'm not being interviewed. I just wanted to get a feel of everyone and understand the process. But some of you I know and some of you I don't, so I look forward to meeting you. I plan to go to the Wellstone picnic and then look forward to the interview process later on.
August 4th.
August 4th. So thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Hi, this is Alan Barth. I want to just introduce myself.
Okay, thank you, Alan. How'd you find out about us?
Well, I've been on the mailing list for quite a while and attended some of the events in the past, but I'm not that active. I'm a Berkeley progressive Democrat. And used to be a member of the Green Party, but I'm just trying to, I think, find a more of a bigger progressive organization to be part of.
Well, welcome. You might want to, if you're available next Sunday, come to the big picnic. Picnics are a nice way to meet people. It's at Bushrod Park, which is just inside the Oakland border on Shattuck by Berkeley.
Yeah, so this is Sunday, and what time does it start?
12 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, I'll make an effort to make it.
Okay, and introduce yourself to us.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to say hi or anything?
Also, I want to say something since he just left. Anyway, so the Berkeley Mayor Forum next week is sponsored by several organizations. The Green Party of Berkeley is one of them. But he just left. That's all right.
I say skip the prepared question portion and just wait around for the questions from the audience. That's where it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, that it, you guys? We're
Stop the
15
recording.
minutes, we're 15 minutes over. Thank you everyone for